Peel post an episode. Welcome back to Sound of Siren. I'm Xavier.
I'm Dylan. Welcome back to another NBA episode. It's been a little while, and I think if you go to our brackets, they're probably a little out of whack. But the Bucks are champions. They won in 6 games today. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Finals MVP, well deserved. What a journey it has been for him and that side. They've had their downs, they've had their ups, but ultimately they secured the win. Save.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier for the Bucks, in particular for Giannis. I, I know Scott Van Pelt from Sports Center. He used an analogy, and I really liked it, so I'm going to use it here. And he spoke about Giannis's championship as a sort of a jacket in the cold. He said that you only need one, and it keeps you warm regardless. You never need two. Um, I know Giannis spoke about this as well. Scott Van Pelt said, when you're wearing the jacket, you can have it forever. It gets old and it starts to look funny, but you've always got it and no one's ever going to ask you, or no one's ever going to say, why don't you have one? So I think that was perfect, and for a perfect championship. So I couldn't be prouder for Giannis or the Bucks.
So let's talk about the journey. They swept the Miami Heat, my team, in dominant fashion, and we all thought, oh, the Heat are pretenders. A lot of people were saying that. And then the next round, they faced the Nets, which we thought would probably be the series of the playoffs, and it turned out to be, in my opinion, Game 7, unbelievable. Kevin Durant, by the way. So they went past the Nets. A lot of people were saying without Kyrie, it was a little unfair. And then they took on the Hawks. They beat them, and then they beat the Suns. But I don't think those excuses matter because Giannis was dominant in every series. He had 50 points in a closeout game, which is history. And his partners in crime, Chris Middleton, he was unbelievable in the clutch. And Drew Holiday, who sits in my heart. I love Drew Holiday, always have throughout his career. And it's great to see that team get up and win.
Yeah, you briefly touched on like the asterisk narrative that
Mm.
surrounds this championship, and that's one thing that I don't want to hear from anyone.
Yeah.
I know our friend Brandon, he talks about it a lot, but it's something that every single year, without fault, the championship has some sort of luck involved in it.
Yeah.
Whether it's last year in the bubble, the year before that with Golden State's injuries, we know the Cavs lost to the Warriors without Kyrie and Kevin Love. There's been a lockout season before. Every single year, without fault, there is luck involved in the championship. So I don't want to hear that the Bucks wouldn't have won it if this happened, if this happened, if this happened, because you could do that for every single season. So
Exactly.
it's
Just
just
have to adapt to it. I personally believe that as well. There's no excuse. It's just unlucky or lucky, I guess, in a way. But yeah, well done to the Bucks. Unbelievable effort, as we've said and said many times. But I think Drew Holiday, despite his shooting ups and downs, a little inconsistent, his defense was huge for that team, and he was the perfect replacement for Eric Bledsoe.
yeah, I think it was bound to happen that he would play a good game. I know, like halfway through the final series, people were posting graphics like comparing his shooting percentages to Eric Bledsoe's and saying like they may as well not have even traded him. But I think Game 5, he was the best player on the court, and it was so important for the Bucks that that happened because that sort of that sort of game elevated them to the point in which they could end up winning the championship, and they did. So that was magnificent from him and really important for the Bucks.
What do you think sparked that turnaround point after game two? Was it a lapse in judgment for the first 2 games? Would they have had a briefing together after the second game? Or how do you think they addressed it before entering game three? Because I don't think many people expected them to come back from 2-0 just like Miami did in 2006, for example.
I think a couple of things definitely led to it. There's a famous saying that a series doesn't start until a team wins away from home. So that hadn't happened yet. The Bucks went home for both games 3 and 4 and won both of them. So that was important for them. But and their fans obviously helped as well. But Giannis obviously was the same person. But Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, I don't think were really good at all in the first two series, the first 2 games. Sorry, and they stood up in games 3 and 4. So that's definitely big for them.
So we talk about the superheroes in Middleton, Holiday, and Giannis, but the supporting cast, Brook Lopez, he had some unreal performances throughout the Hawks series, particularly, I believe it was. Bobby Portis was crucial for them, and Pat Connaughton in Game 5 hit 4 threes. So whether he's up or down, it doesn't matter if you deliver at the right time. You could go 0 for 182 in the regular season, and then if you shoot over 50% in the playoffs, it doesn't matter. So great for Pat Connaughton. Dante DiVincenzo as well was missing, so I'm glad he receives a ring. But I mean, the experience, he would have just wanted to get on the floor and play. But what can you do? Unfortunate for the Suns. We all love Chris Paul, but I don't think we should undermine the Suns yet. Next year, they are a great chance to return.
Yeah, I think similarly to Pat Connaughton as well. Thanasis Antetokounmpo, obviously Giannis's older brother, he missed out on not playing in the finals because he did get to play, but he didn't play the most recent game. He had a COVID protocol and had to stay in a hotel. So that was unfortunate for him that he didn't get to celebrate. But what I really did like is the second they announced that the Bucks had won, Giannis went straight onto his live on Instagram and joined with Thanasis. So they got to celebrate together and on that live stream. So that was really good.
Just before we transition to the Suns, PJ Tucker acquired in the middle of the season, didn't score today, but as I said, along with Drew Holiday, his defense plays a major role. He's a big physical body, boxing out. It's all the 1%ers that matter. So he's been great for them. But for the Suns, this is just the beginning. I know Chris Paul is 35. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think maybe 36, but I
30.
don't know.
I was nearing 36, but this is just the beginning. You have a young Devin Booker. You have Mikal Bridges, who Philly traded for Zaire Smith. You have Jay Crowder, who's also higher in age, but a great leader and mentor for the others. And then you've got Cameron Payne, who was considered not even worth being in the NBA a few years ago. So the turnaround is amazing for the Suns. They didn't even finish in the playoffs last year, but I seriously give them a big chance to return to the finals, as I said before.
Yeah, I'm not sure even if you mentioned DeAndre Ayton, and he's one of the best young big men in the entire league. So they definitely have a lot of upside next year and going even further into the future.
And guys like Dario Saric, just off the bench, who play that role in scoring a few points and then heading there. So it's a learning experience. I know they unfortunately lost, but they'll learn again and they'll probably come back stronger and harder than ever.
Before we end the video, I do want to talk a little bit about Giannis and just the significance of like what he did and how he did it. So he broke pretty much every statistical record. We know after game 2, they were talking about him, Shaq, and LeBron James as the only players to have back-to-back 40-point double-doubles in NBA Finals. So he's the only player in the last 50 NBA Finals to have 2 20-point quarters. Even just staying with the Bucks in general was incredible. Every single team in the world was photoshopping Giannis into their team's jersey, and he stayed with the Bucks. Yeah, I know he spoke about this in his post-game press conference as well. He said it's so easy for him to leave, join whatever super team he wants, and win rings. But he stayed with the Bucks, and he used a few swear words, but pretty much said that they won, and they won this year. So that was really good. We know the biggest talking point about him this year was whether he would sign the Supermax or not, and he did, and he stayed with the Bucks, and he won. So he's been his decision has been validated, I guess. But the one other thing I want to say is that after LeBron retires, we know he's going to be the face of the league until he does, because he's just that big of a name. But after he retires, I think Giannis is that guy. I don't really want to talk about Luka or Zion. They're going to be great players, but Zion is a 26, not Zion, what's his name? Giannis is a 26-year-old, and he's done everything that there is to accomplish in the league. He's a two-time MVP. He's Defensive Player of the Year. He's now an NBA champion and a Finals MVP. And at the same age, at 26, Michael Jordan had 0 titles, 0 Finals MVPs, only 1 MVP. LeBron, 0 titles, 0 Finals MVPs, 2 MVPs. Wilt, 0 titles, 0 Finals MVPs, and MVP. Shaq, 0 titles, 0 Finals MVPs, 0 MVPs. So at 26, this guy's probably better than any player we've ever seen. So he's got a lot left to give to the sport. And I know I'm the biggest LeBron James fan, but I want to say that I think Giannis is, as of right now, the best player in the league. And I think it's a little bit disrespectful to say that he's not, because he won an MVP in one of the best seasons ever. Then he did the exact same thing, became only the third player to win MVP and Defensive Player of the Year in the same year. And people said, like, they created the narrative that it doesn't mean anything until he does something in the playoffs. And that's what he did this year. He dominated. And I think we saw that in a couple of other players as well. Devin Booker and Trae Young in particular were just players that put up useless stats. And we know how good of a playoff run both of those guys had this year. So incredible performance.
Yep, for sure, Xav. And as you said, he just adds to that foundation that he already constructed with the 2 MVPs, another championship. He was most improved player back in 2017. But the biggest obstacle he had to overcome was the mental obstacle of free throws. And in Game 6, he shot 17 for 19. And as Mike Breen said, he is Steph Antetokounmpo, which he did turn into in Game 6 and 7. So in my opinion, that's probably one of the tougher things he's achieved, despite being now a one-time champion and 2 times MVP.
Yeah, Kenny Beecham, king of the fourth quarter, in his recap said he's never seen anyone change from Shaquille O'Neal at the free throw line to Steph Curry in back-to-back games. He was really good from there. I know it probably helps that he doesn't have 20,000 people screaming at him, but you could hear a pin drop in the stadium. So he was really good, and I don't think his greatness or the Bucks win can be understated.
We've restricted this episode to the finals, and we'll have another episode with the off-season chatter, with the trade rumors, sure, and any other news you want to ask me, Xav. So before we do end the episode, anything on the Bucks and the Suns?
No, not really that we haven't already mentioned. Both teams had incredible playoff runs. Obviously, Bucks were the victors, but not taking away from the Suns. Both were incredible.
Yeah, well done, Milwaukee. The Deer District, fear the Deer. Well done. The Bucks in 6 all the way. And that wraps up our episode. Make sure to follow at sts.podcast, at AFL Supercoach, at FootbyBeanies, just the usual accounts. And we will see you next time.